I've got a couple questions that people have already sent into it about just what it's like to run a high-end chocolate shop in the 90210. Right?
Yes, well, I'll do my best because I work out of 90021. So we'll see how 90210 goes too.
I'm an East
Two
Coast
locations.
guy. They're all like the same to me. I'm like an
No,
East
I
Coast
know.
guy.
It's because we have 2 locations. I'll explain that to everybody
Cool.
in a little bit. So go ahead and do your thing.
So how are things? I mean, the world is obviously totally effed up, right? I mean,
it is.
You know, I mean, it's a mess, and everybody I talk to sort of acknowledges that and acknowledges that we're all kind of scared, and we're hoping that people are staying healthy and safe and all that stuff. But it's a tough way to do business right now, right? I mean, for you, for us, I mean, we're here, but we're not at 100%. You know, I mean, we're not.
No, I mean, how could you? I mean, this whole thing. What people need to understand is that this is a supply chain, and if I stop, the chocolate distributor stops, the machine distributor stops, the farmers stop, even the butcher stop. And I'm a vegetarian, so it's hard to say things about that, but that's the reality. Everything that people produce to be moved through restaurants and hotels and cruise lines and airliners stops. And it's oil production, it's all that. So our economy is reliant on each other. It's not just this big guy or that big guy. It's reliant on each other. And you know, we were one of the first ones, I think, in Los Angeles to realize the severity of this, and we closed before the mayor ordered us to close.
Right.
And thankfully, our customers came to us online and were able to support us in this time. And I wish we had another week of this because it's been really great. Luckily, the ownership is very generous, and they've been able to pay half salary 2 weeks in a row to our staff who aren't working. Right. Unfortunately, we had to end that, and we're now paying people who are back to work. So we do have people back to work, just not the front of the house. And we do need our doors open. There's no question we need our doors open. But this has been great because, you know, for me, working as a pastry chef for all these years, you know, at the hotel in Beverly Hills or what have you, if you wanted to have my desserts and you saw them on social media, you had to come to Beverly Hills to see it. Now this way, we're able to ship around the country.
Right.
And we've been, over the years, I've been lucky to see them wind up in, you know, Australia and Norway. Now we haven't shipped there. We've had people mule them there, so that's been very cool. And I saw my friend Fred from, I think he's in Scranton, Larashi. He's a great chocolatier,
yeah.
Great pastry chef. He posted a photo today of his stuff in Indonesia, and I find that to be incredible. That is the power of social media, that somebody like Fred, a brand like his own, can wind up in another country because it looks so delicious on social media, and it is in real life as well. So I find that to be amazing, and I appreciate the support, not just for myself, but for my friends. You know, like guys like Kriss Albo.
Yeah, and that's what I'm seeing too. You know, I mean, like I'm here in the office because we're part of the food supply chain, right? So we're considered essential, right? So we make trays and we make molds and we sell equipment and things that people need if they're going to be part of the food chain, right? So, but most of our staff are working from home, you know, and I work for some really generous folks too who have found a way to make sure that everybody's still getting paid, you know, and so those of us that are essential are in the office. So, you know, without a kitchen, I don't have a lot to do.
Right. Same here.
So I'm here, and that's kind of where some of this came from for us, is me trying to find ways that we can continue to touch our customers and touch people in the industry and really try to be like part of the game, right? And, you know, and so, but I've been talking to a lot of customers too, and a lot of chocolatiers in the country, and, you know, those of you that have already have sort of that internet social media presence have done okay. I don't want to say great. I mean, you know what I mean?
we need the store open. No doubt about it.
But you've done okay, and the people that are less inclined to have an internet way or a way to ship product have not done as great. I mean,
or how about the people that were just starting to expand? Or that could give an example.
Kriss.
Ramon and Kriss Albo, right? And how about Ramon Perez up in Sacramento? He's a great chocolatier. He's one of my favorites. You know, I'm not one of these guys that doesn't like other people because they're in the same business. I admire what they do. And, and there's room for all of us. There's no question.
No, I mean, Ramon's here teaching. So a little plug for your class, by the way. Because you were supposed to teach with us, what, in 3 weeks?
Couple weeks.
Yeah, and so Kriss was supposed to come out and teach with us, and then your hat or my hat? Which hat do they like?
No, she's saying.
Mine's a Tomric hat, so.
Oh, yeah, but you look like a Cuban leader.
Yeah, I know.
But she lives up in San Francisco.
Right.
And she
Go
is a
Bears.
pastry chef at Go Bears. That's right. That's right. And my adopted dad, Jack Coons, is professor emeritus at the University of California of Law, and so we're a Cal family. So that's why I have this hat on. Always rocking it though.
But anyway, so you were supposed to be here in a couple weeks, and we had to move, we moved your class early, right? I mean, we moved it a month ago, didn't we? I mean, we moved it really early.
Yeah, we did. And believe it, on Monday makes a month since this whole thing started and got shut down. So hard to believe. So we're still surviving.
It's Blur Day, right? Today's Blur Day. Tomorrow's the day after Blur Day. Yesterday.
Yes, correct.
Blur Day. Anyway, so you're coming out to teach, and then another one of our other chocolatiers, had to unfortunately cancel.
Who was that?
Michael can't come.
Oh, Ricciuti, yeah.
Yeah,
he was concerned.
And I think it makes sense. I mean, he's holding on to a business, right? And I think that's the priority. And so our apologies and his apologies for the people that signed up for that class. But I get it, right? And then Ramon is coming. And actually, as much as I love you, I've seen you work. I mean, like Ramon coming at the end of summer is going to be friggin' awesome. I mean, Ramon has some of the best pieces in the industry right now.
Chocolate pieces or equipment?
No, he's
or
got
both.
some of the best chocolate.
Yeah, he does.
He's
I
got
agree.
some of the best chocolate here in I think in North America.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
and
who is that? Who is that?
Nobody.
Is that Tom?
No. So
Okay.
So he's got some of the best chocolate in North America, and I'm excited to see how he puts that together. I mean, his flavors are awesome, right?
His coloring is too. He has the best aesthetic. He just knows what he's doing. He's a super nice guy. He's from Holland, right? Did you know that?
No, I thought he was I thought he was originally from Sacramento.
He was born in Holland, so he'll have to tell you that story. So.
Got it. So anyway, so he's coming, but you're right. I mean, like there's people that are growing. I mean, like there was an article actually in the Buffalo News today about like 3 restaurants that were supposed to open on March 15th.
That's crazy.
And it's like, what do you do, right? I mean, how do you, I mean, you have some business, right? I mean, you guys do fairly well. Fair statement.
Well, 35 years at that address in Beverly Hills.
Right.
So. Yeah, we can do that. They want to know who we're talking about. And Ramon is Pure, P-U-U-R, chocolate in Sacramento. P-U-U-R.
And Christopher, I don't know what
Elbow.
Christopher. Yeah, it's Christopher Elbow.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
With a C-H.
Yeah,
no K.
And Kriss is in Kansas City and San Francisco, Hayes Valley.
Right.
And he's a great guy. I know his wife too. They're wonderful people. And they have a donut shop too. Did you know that?
Yeah, they have that donut and coffee thing. But they opened that business and ice cream, right? They opened
that's right.
less than a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so, they finally, talking to Christopher, they were finally getting into the groove about how to run that business.
Right.
And then you blow it all up, right? I mean, it's a tough nut.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what we were going to talk about and Sons a little bit. Like, I mean, what does a normal day look like before all this? I mean, like how many people were on your team? Like how much product were you trying to make?
Well, we've had that store, originally was a chocolate store that imported a brand from Switzerland. And the mom started it in 1983. And then, just to show you how resilient they are, 1983 was the tail end of the worst recession this country had since the Great Depression. And then she kept it open for 3 more recessions. So that would be 2008 and 92 and now this one. And they're determined to hold on to it. And then she retired and passed on to their kids. And they found me when I was at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills. And they said, well, let's do this. We want to create a new brand, a new style. So we worked on this for 3 years actually without telling anybody. And I was still working at the hotel. And so that store, hey, Nicholas from Valrhona, or used to formerly at Valrhona.
But hey, another one of our teachers.
He's teaching, that's right.
Yeah,
and if he's never seen that lab, he's going to be in heaven because it's incredible. Your laboratory that you built there, it's incredible. That store is right off Rodeo Drive in the 90210. It's on a corner across from an agency, a very large entertainment agency called William Morris. And it just... they put a coffee window up, so there's a cafe, and there's always a line down the block just to get drinks and that sort of thing. So that really is the cash flow that the store needs. And then we gutted it and renovated it and with brand new packaging and a new look. And then we have a lab downtown in the Arts District where we have our machinery, where my team operates. And there is, I think, 6 of us total in the kitchen, and there's many more in the front of the house. So unfortunately, they have been furloughed. Most of my kitchen staff is back. I left one person out because I wanted to reduce our risk. He had just taken a trip to New York City, so he is furloughed a little bit longer until he comes out of this. And he's safe. He doesn't have any symptoms, but I don't want to risk it. And so far, we've had a very light load of people in the kitchen, and we distance and wear masks. And we're very careful anyway and have great practices. And this is not a foodborne illness, but I think the trust of the community is very, very important, that they trust us blindly anyway. But I think now that their eyes are much more open to any risk that they can come across.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's even, I live in a house where we aren't doing takeout, right? So like every meal that's been eaten in our house for the 3 of us for the last 30 days has been cooked and prepared by one of us.
Right.
And I think we understand that, but I think there's still that sense of fear. Like I don't want to keep coming back to that, but it's.
Well, I think that's what's unusual about this is that we fear the things even in our own house, and it is important to maintain cleanliness in your workplace, your car, and your home, because this is the environment that you're around more. And we always talk about the environment outside, and that's important too. But when it's more compact, it's important that your countertops are clean and your door handles are clean and your kitchen at home and all of that. And I practice what I preach at work and at home too.
Yeah, you told a funny story online somewhere about the guy going to the bathroom and washing his hands before he went to the bathroom.
That's right.
Because he knew where his
hands were.
His itty bits were.
Yeah.
He didn't know
where his hands were.
Where his hands had been. I mean, I think.
Yeah. It's a little crude of a way to put it, but he made it. He made his point.
Yeah. So I was thinking yesterday, I think we didn't meet for the first time until about 4 years ago at the New York or the Seattle Chocolate Show.
It was,
the Northwest Chocolate Show. You were walking with one of the guys from a public.
That's right, with Phil. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And we had the first opportunity because you were starting to look at sell-me equipment at that point.
Yeah, I knew I was going to. I mean, I was looking at other stuff, but there was no way I was buying anything else. I had LCM, and every time I asked about that other Italian brand, you want to say what it is or no?
Nope.
Okay, we'll leave it alone. It has initials. The best answer I could get out of anybody, the best answers I could get out of anybody was it's good for the price, which is never a good thing. That's never a good thing because I don't think Sell-Me is all that expensive compared to LCM. LCM is very expensive.
So was my Honda Civic that I had in 1985.
It was good for the money.
It was a $7,000 car.
But I haven't had any issues with the Sell-Me stuff other than ones I've created when I broke a belt or two because it was my fault.
Right.
But this stuff is high tech. It's engineered beautifully. It's super consistent in what it does. And I just love them, and I just can't recommend them enough. They're beautiful to look at too.
Got it. But so we met 4 years ago.
There,
right?
yes, in Seattle.
There, talking equipment, talking all that stuff. Though you and I have been close to each other a couple times, I think, right? I mean,
Well, we have crossed paths professionally because you worked in Washington D.C. back, I think, when I did, or I was at the Ritz-Carlton, Pentagon City, in 1992 or 93.
Okay, so I was later. I was much later. So I'm trying to think who was your. Were you the pastry chef there?
No. I was cook one with Sylvain Gaez, and Sylvain's uncle was the White House pastry chef for many, many years.
Right. Whose name is just escaped me for a moment.
Roland Mesnier, yes.
Who judged my very first cake ever.
I'm sure he did. Was it over in Maryland?
It was at l'Academy. It was like a scholarship competition that they put out in
Gaithersburg.
That I thought was like the greatest thing ever. And he kind of walked in and kind of looked at it, did that kind of thing, took a bite out of it, was like, this is not going to win. It was like one of those, awesome.
I could see him doing it too.
But yeah, so I was at the Ritz later, and I was at Tyson's with Laurent Lillier, who was there after Eric Perez.
Who's now in either Thailand or Shanghai. I think he's in Thailand.
Both, right? He's got a shop in Bangkok and in somewhere
in China. A school, I believe, too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then I was with the Ritz for a while, and then I ended up working at Albert Ooster.
Right. Who I know. I knew Albert very well, senior. And Albert Jr. I just ran into in San Francisco at Fancy Food. And Albert's actually stayed in my home a couple times in Vegas. He stayed there and stole my car once.
Senior or junior?
Junior, but I had a great dinner with his pops one time. He's just an amazingly generous guy. You know, he was a great guy. He was a great.
Oh
guy.
yeah, I mean, yeah, Albert one day walks in and he's been in Switzerland, right? And so he has a stack of books that he was at Richemont, right? And so he chucks these books on my desk and he goes, "I got these for you," and he like goes to walk out, and I flip the first one open and it's in German, right? And I'm like, "Hey, boss, this thing's in German," and he goes, "How long have you worked here?" And I'm like, 9 months? Like, I don't know, boss. A year? He goes, "You don't know German yet?" And I'm like, "No, boss, I don't know German yet." He goes, "You need to start hanging out with the interns." And like just walks away. And it was just like one of those, like, Albert is one of those people in my life that, you know, I miss him very much. But I remember him super fondly. I mean, he talked to anybody about food. You know, he was
passionate. And by the way, he brought the first gourmet goods into America essentially in the late 1970s when he was working at the Watergate.
In his suitcase. He would like go home to Switzerland, like buy 3 more suitcases, fill them with chocolate and other things for the German and the Swiss pastry chefs from DC, right? And then bring them back and then sell them out of his suitcase, out of the back of the Watergate.
Let me explain to everybody, there would be no chocolate transfer sheets if not for Albert Ooster. Because I remember I was friends with Andreas in 1991 when I worked in Washington, D.C. with his ex-girlfriend, Jackie. And she showed me this, and it just had stars on it. And I said, "Well, what the F is that?" Because his chocolate transfer sheets are new from Albert Ooster. So he was an innovator. He may have not invented it, but he distributed innovation. No question about it. To North America.
Yeah, when I was in that kitchen working, because I worked with Anil Rohira in that kitchen,
right?
Who's now with Felton and living
in India.
Yeah, he's back in Mumbai.
With his family.
And then Amanda Hubba, who's now the pastry chef there.
Correct.
Amanda and I worked together first at the Ritz, and then we both of us moved over to AUI. You know, I mean, like that was the goal. I mean, we spent more time looking at product and throwing product out. You know, like look at the new box from Germany. What's in here? Nothing we need. You know, nothing that meets that requirement. You know, but
he always had the rare ingredients that you can never find anywhere else too, like Bavaroise jelly. You know, and I mean, these are, you know, nobody knows what I'm talking about because I'm old, but these are things that you would never find anywhere. You know? Yeah,
like we would have, there was, and that kitchen, like our kitchen there always had like these, you know, these weird sections of stuff that like was like a discontinued product because only like one person bought it because you bought it, right?
Right.
And you'd get a call, it's like, "Hey, you discontinued this, but where can I get it?" It's like, "Well, we still have 20 pounds of it in the kitchen. You know, we can send that to you. You know, but what am I going to do when it's gone?" I'm like, "I don't know. That's on you." But
and let's say this too. You know, Albert was a passionate flyer, and I was taking flying lessons years ago, and we were talking about that. And unfortunately, that's how he lost his life. Yeah. He lost his life in a glider accident. You know.
But you know, there's been a lot of talk about that, and I don't want to get into but.
Oh, it's tragic. But we missed him. That's for sure.
But he put that glider down, like in the middle of a pool,
right?
So
to
that
avoid children.
So he wouldn't hit anybody else. I mean, like
because he crashed near a school, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, anyway. But
he was a great guy, and his son is too. And I love, you know, I've known his son forever, and his son's got children now, and you know, we used to call Albert Poppy. I don't know if you ever did, but
we all. And you know what? When I'm still, so I got together with Anil, Amanda, and Sergio Mueller. I don't know if you know Sergio.
No.
Sergio was with AUI forever, and he was my sales rep at when I was at the Ritz. So we all got together for dinner about a year ago, and one of the things was whenever you went out to eat at Albert Ooster, you would toast Poppy before you ate, like whether he was at the table or not at the table, and we did that even after he was gone, and the 4 of us still toasted Poppy and thanked him for dinner.
Well, we used to take his credit card out whether he was there or not quite a bit too, and he was always very generous with the parties and the dinners. So, and also I dated 2 of his reps, so that's a full service company.
Well, I ended up marrying one of the marketing managers.
Oh, okay. Well, you see, and then have a child. So there you go.
Yeah, right. So it all worked out.
That's good.
Albert,
That's great.
The last Albert story. So Albert was a little miffed when I left because I think because he liked me, but it didn't come across that way, right? It came across as this like go do whatever you're going to do, and then my girlfriend at the time has to tell Albert that she's leaving AUI and had been with them forever to come with me, and it was just like this whole thing, right? And then after she was gone, she got this lovely letter and like a wedding gift and all this stuff because that's, I mean, we were family, right? I mean, and that was how we were, you know. But anyway, we should move on. So
yeah.
So we talked about your business and like normally how many people you have and like how many pieces do you think you make a day normally? Like what's the goal?
Oh, Jesus, you know, I'm even shocked sometimes what we can produce. You know, over Christmas time, our projection was about 20,000 in Christmas sales, and then it wound up being about 73,000 pieces totally. So we in about a 24-hour period with closing them after they're in the coma, we can probably do about 3,500 to 4,000 in 24 hours, I would say, with the team intact.
With, I forget how many, like 6 of you?
Well, yeah, and then we extend the hours, you know, so it's done over, you know, the shifts start at like, say, 7 a.m. and they end about 7:30, 8 o'clock p.m. So it's pretty productive for that short time.
Right, but you're not using a one shot, right? I mean, still pretty much.
No, we're not. We're all doing everything. Yeah, we're spraying by hand, shelling by hand. I would love to have a one shot, but these are all made by humans. So no matter the equipment I have, and people see all that equipment I have, they're all still done by hand. We don't have a depositor head. I would love to have that. It would keep the molds a lot cleaner. It's definitely worth the investment.
But you're cutting all your ganache on a guitar. You don't have
on a guitar. Jet. Yes, correct.
You don't have a water jet. You don't have like nothing else.
No.
Are you piping every ganache?
We're piping by hand too. We're not using any machines. So
is it behind me? I don't know if you can see it.
Is it behind
you?
No,
it is. It's on this side though. But,
okay. Well, you can maybe move around and show people a bit later on.
Well, except I've got the camera on this like nice little stand.
All right. Well, you can leave it there.
This is why it's not bouncing around. But we'll move it
Well,
around.
you know what? Your next post should be talking about the depositing head, the one shot, and that the ganaches that go inside molds are different texture than ganaches that go in frame. So we could discuss that if anybody has any questions about that too. So
yeah, that's a great. I mean, so generally, yeah. I mean, as a rule, 20% more cream, 20% more dairy.
Or caramelized too.
Yeah, I mean, but in my piped ganaches, on my slab ganaches.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a rough rule. I mean, but some of that gets set back into shelf life, right? And there was a question about that. Like I printed it.
Yeah, I did. That's one of my favorite questions that I get a lot, and you have to consider that all things have to be done safely. So I always tell people how to create long shelf life ganaches, but you have to handle them correctly. So sanitation is very important first and foremost. So it's not just the proper amount of invert sugar or caramelization of your ganache and humidity. So we'll talk about temperature and humidity. So there's ganaches and there's pralines, and they have a different shelf life. So pralines, when I say pralines, I mean nut pralines held together with tempered cocoa butter and tempered milk chocolate. Depending on the temperature, they have a shelf life of anywhere from 6 weeks to over a year. It just depends on the temperature of which you keep them, because you're talking about the migration of fats through the chocolate. So I have found if they're held at 9 to 10 degrees centigrade, which is refrigerated temperature, that you can hold them for up to a year if they're wrapped up in a box, or you can freeze them. But if they're at like 18 degrees, which is room temperature, which is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to find your stability is going to be a little bit lessened to about 4 to 6 weeks. And if you break that temperature, they're going to be even lesser, because nut fats are not saturated fats. In other words, they're only solid when they're cold. They're not solid at room temperature. So they are loose fats. Now, as far as ganaches, if your formulation is at room temperature, they should last more than 90 days, and not a problem. You can go a little bit cooler. You can store them in your refrigerator wrapped up, and you can even freeze them, which is a lot of manufacturers do. I don't freeze yet, but I plan on doing that. I know Kriss Elbow does, and almost everybody does, because their volume is much larger than mine.
But you have a coma?
I do have a coma. Yeah.
Does your coma have a blast freezer option too?
No, it doesn't. It is just for chocolate storage. So the reason I have the coma, it is for the crystallization of the ganaches, so I don't have to leave them on a table. So I use the magic temper system. So I do 1% magic temper to the ganaches, and I do 4% to pralines. And most of them are ready to close or cut within that day.
Right.
Even white Ganache maybe has to go a full 24 hours. But in days past, before the Magic Temper system, you would just kind of wait and hello, Michael.
And I was going to say, like, I didn't want to interrupt you, but it's like Michael Riccuti tuning in.
Yeah.
So
Hello,
now,
everybody.
so hey, Michael, people were wondering how we could tag you earlier. So now that you're here, no, we're not wearing masks.
There's nobody here.
I'm by myself. There's nobody here. I'll sanitize the entire workspace when I'm done. And Kriss isn't at his shop. He's at home in his apartment.
Home. Yeah, which is very clean, as you know.
Anyway, so we were talking. Sorry, I interrupted.
Shelf stability. So, the purpose of the invert sugar in Ganache is to absorb moisture. Okay, because water is what can create mold in your Ganaches. So, controlling that water is essential. So, hey, Norway, there's Craig. He's a great chocolatier.
Oh, and I don't know if you saw before that was Kriss Kohler from up in Youngsville. So
Kriss, Kriss and I used to work together in 2000 and 2001, and that's how we got to know each other. He was a savory.
But another great American chocolatier.
He is in Napa. I've been to his shop. It's beautiful.
So yeah, I mean it's and he's a Summit guy too. So
Yes, he is. Yep. Yeah, he has an older 24 kilo machine. He's had it for many years.
He's due for a new one, but I don't think I should have been up for that right now with what's going on in the world.
So we're all kind of a little backed up, but yeah, shelf stability is brought on by many things. The main thing being controlling the water in the recipe, and then proper storage. And just like anything that you bring home, it could have a shelf life issue. If you bring home chicken, has a shelf life. If you bring home fruit, has a shelf life. So once you buy it, we tell people to, even though it has a much longer shelf life than what we say, we tell people to enjoy within 14 days because we don't know what they're doing with it.
Right.
Under our conditions, it's one thing, but it's no different than when I get my car from Lexus. It comes to me pristine, but if somebody hits me, it's a different story. So just enjoy them when you and share them with your friends and family, and we'll make plenty of them. Don't worry about that. And I hate hearing people say they're too pretty to eat. Eat them. Our economy depends on you eating them and buying more. So please eat them.
Yeah, that's me too. Like I'll bring stuff home, that we'll be messing around with around here, and it's just like I can't eat that. Like, please eat that.
Please eat it. Yeah.
There'll be more. There'll be lots more.
Yeah. And that shows you how important the supply chain is. And one thing that we can never forget is how hard the people work that pick the cacao for us in the Dominican Republic, in Cuba, in Jamaica, throughout Latin America, throughout Africa. And they're finding cacao in Vietnam and these amazing places. We cannot forget these people. They have no idea what we're going to do with ultimately what becomes chocolate. So just out of respect to them, use every drop of it. And I used to work for Joel Robuchon, and he went to school to be a priest. And he used to say, that animal died. That animal, your cooking better be worth that animal's life because it gave up its life for you to cook it. So out of the same respect for the people that pick and grow the cacao and work very hard for us, I like to use it respectively as well.
Yeah. So back to sort of where all this started too. I'm going to give my one more complaint about the world. I was supposed to be in Ecuador 3 weeks ago on a trip courtesy of our friends at
Valrhona.
Republic de Cacao.
Yeah. And Philippe Bongran is now running that company down in Ecuador now. And the Bongran family owns Vice, Valrhona, Republic of Cacao, La Maison du Chocolat, and a huge dairy company called Savencia.
Yep.
Very nice people. I had all of them in my kitchen, and very nice people.
Cool. Another question?
Okay, let's answer.
I haven't seen any questions. Like nobody's asking.
Yeah, they're just giving thumbs up. They're just liking the conversation. But ask away. This is your chance.
This could be that first question, by the way, was Nora somebody on Instagram. So this one's from Chart Truffles. I'm having problems with the language now. When using agar instead of gelatin, is it a 1-to-1 replacement? And my experience is different. What we're doing with it too.
Right.
Like the agar people, it's 1-to-1.
It's not. No, agar is, and we have a question from Sweden here.
There's a question about molds, so I'll get that when we're done.
Okay. So the thing with agar is it is a gelling agent, but it's very, very different. It's irreversible. So once it's set through heavy boiling, and sometimes the acid can mess with its consistency, so you have to adjust it for that. The agar is very firm. It's very flaky. So one gelling agent doesn't solve all your issues, and we see that, like, say, when you make ice cream. When you make ice cream, it's not just one gelling agent, it's multiples, because they all do something different. So agar has its place in pastry. It doesn't have any place in chocolate that I can think of. Gelatin has its place in pastry making as well, but they're very different things. And I understand the vegetarian issue of it, but they're very different usages, not just for vegetarians or vegans. They have different consistencies. Gelatin tends to be more rubbery, and it can be relaxed and then set again, whereas once agar is set, it is set for good.
Right.
And plus, you can kind of smell it.
Right. So I saw a couple questions roll through. I use Volrath inductions. However, there was a question about Control Freak. Is it worth it? And
are you kidding me?
I'll let you answer that one, because, like, you know, it's on your sleeve. Did you get the Control Freak tattoo yet?
You know, I also, you know, I have a partnership with them. You know, I got to tell you, aligning myself with brands has been the greatest thing that I've ever done for my career. And when I mean that, I'll explain to you what I mean. I've been a user of Boiron. What is going on there?
I was grabbing
he's getting a mold.
molds. I was grabbing molds for my next conversation.
Okay. So aligning myself with Boiron, Valrhona, Turmeric, and Breville and Polyscience have been really the best moves that I've ever made, because they supported me throughout this so greatly. And I have a kitchen full of Breville appliances that they sold to me at discount. They're wonderful people. But that Control Freak is an incredible device. It's worth every penny. They're making another one that's going to have my recipes that you can download into it, and it'll set them up step by step by step. So it's going to be very, very cool. But that Control Freak is amazing. You can literally stop time. And when you're cooking, especially caramels, that's very important. So if I'm caramelizing hazelnuts, in the old days, you'd use like a giant copper pot with a huge flame underneath it. And that sugar is caramelizing at a very rapid rate when you're stirring it. And so you really have no idea how much heat is underneath the pan versus what's inside the pan. Right. So now you can stop the temperature of the pan underneath the pot and only worry and focus on what's going on inside the pan. So that's important to have control over that. So somebody asked, what is induction?
Or no, I think they said why induction. And I think,
why?
I think that's some of the answer, even if you're not using your souped up super premium induction pot.
Right.
You know, you are able to do a better job of controlling what's going on in that, going on inside the pan itself, whether you're making caramel or PDF or whatever it is. I find that in general, they're faster.
Yeah, so there's not that carryover heat too. Once you turn it off,
so once you turn it off, like, it goes away, and so you're able to
burning your arm.
Right, you know, or you're making your pastry cream, whatever it is that you want to make. So, all right. So the question had something to do about molds, because I get to talk for like 2 minutes today about the difference between an injection polycarbonate mold, and in this case, I think our watcher said cheap mold.
Well, there's hobbyist molds. I never say cheap, but you know.
Right. I don't like the word cheap. Cheap, you know, cheap implies quality.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this mold, okay, which could be like a traditional, what we think of as a praline mold. In the United States, we refer to this as a polycarbonate injection mold. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what we call them, right? I want one of those polycarbonate molds. That's what our chefs think about in this country, in North America.
Same.
Okay. Turmeric, we don't do injection here. We work with some partners in Europe that do injection. You know, we have 2 or 3 different people that we work with, ranging from Hans Brunner to a couple other people that do our injection molds.
And Turkey too.
Yeah. And then what we do in the United States is we do something called thermoform. And thermoforming, basically, you take a metal tool, you heat it up, you heat the plastic up, and using a vacuum, you draw it over. It is a less expensive process to make tools and that kind of thing. But fundamentally, it's more flexible, and you're able to do more designs and that type of thing more cost effectively. Mm-hmm. So hence why I don't like the word cheap, right? Okay.
They're very good. They are very good, though, because I have used them seasonally, the ones that you make there, too. So they have their place in my kitchen, too.
Right. So but what we do is we use, the material we use is actually polycarbonate. So this mold and this mold are made of the same material, right? The difference is how it's formed. What that does mean, though, is that these molds do tend to be a little less rigid, right? They have a little bit of flex to them. But especially if you want to do, custom or things like that, the cost.
Or showpiece.
The cost is so much less, right? That if you're going to do a custom mold, especially if you're just doing something like a tablet, right? Though we can get a ton of detail and design. I was walking a trade show, and I was actually with our biggest competitor in North America, who was right behind me, right? And he walks into this booth at a fancy food show, and he walks up to this chocolatier I'm talking to, and he's like looking at the bar. He's like, "Who does your molds? Because this is awfully good detail for them." And the chocolatier looks at me and goes, "They do our molds." And he points at me, and like this guy didn't realize I was in the booth. He's like, "Oh, sorry, Brian." He kind of like slipped away.
So we won't mention who that person is. I don't know who it is either.
It doesn't matter. But I mean, I think that when we look at doing projects for people, because we can do both, like we can do injection and we can do thermoform, we really look at what the cost ratio is and like what somebody wants to do on the back end, right?
Right.
You can get more cavities in an injection mold than you can in a thermoform mold.
Yep.
But you can get almost the same amount of detail. So which actually gets.
But those pumpkins I used that were super popular at holiday time, you guys made those there in Buffalo, and they were amazing.
Right.
Smoking weed's better during COVID. How dare you, Kriss Golder?
You California boys.
Yeah.
You guys can do whatever you want. So that actually leads us to the next question, like how to prep molds with intricate details so that they come out clean and intact, especially the new Chocolate World molds with Asian and Middle Eastern themes that are very intricate. Can I answer the first part of it?
Yeah.
Really well-tempered chocolate is going to come out of anything cleanly if the mold's made right? And so Chocolate World molds generally are made really well, right? So, but if you don't have really well-tempered chocolate, you're going to have problems with molding. Like that's one. Now you're going to go into your whole shtick about polishing and cleaning and all that stuff.
Right. Well, I tend to use smoother, more like a blank canvas. The reason I use smoother, more simple molds is I like a blank canvas. So when I see the really, there's a company out of Italy that makes very obscene looking, not obscene, but just obnoxious looking molds. And they're just too, I think when you spray them and you start coloring them, especially when you put multiple colors in there, they almost camouflage the shape. So this is why I use very simple shapes. Like I use the Demisphere, 3 centimeter Demisphere from Chocolate World. And the ones that I designed that in conjunction with Tom Rick that are coming out soon, not Martellato, Pavoni. I left them very simple because I think the artistic expression from whoever's using them is more important than the shape being all the detail. So yeah, so you can do many more things. I see a lot of molds that have like square edges and things like that, and I'm not a huge fan of that because they tend to look odd and they lose their identity if they're covered up with too much color.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that we were talking. My comment about tempered chocolate too. I mean, if we end up in that over crystallized world, right? Definitely, if you have a lot more detail or corners or those types of things, they're definitely harder to get air bubble free. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure. With the corners and things like that, chocolate tends to get clogged up there, and you'll get bubbles on that. So, yeah.
So somebody's asking about classes in Boston.
Well, Buffalo and Boston are not that far.
It's a 45-minute
flight. Yeah, it's got to be. And by the way, Buffalo is a very nice city. I was surprised, and I stayed at the Hotel Henry, and that was amazing. It used to be an insane asylum, and I loved staying there, and I loved filming it every night. I'd go back and show the Instagram world where I was staying. It was so cool. It was so cool. So,
yeah, well, thanks. I mean, yeah, I've learned to appreciate Buffalo. I didn't appreciate it this morning as I was scraping the snow off my car.
No, I couldn't do that. By the way, I thought it was cold when I was there in May because we went to see the falls and I almost died.
Right. Well, the good news is now you're coming in August. So
yes.
But I think there may be a couple spots left in your classes now.
Where is Iris Delights? Where is that person? I communicate frequently with Iris Delights, but I'm not sure where they're at. Yeah, Hotel Henry is an amazing place. It used to be an insane asylum, and it had very long. It was like something out of a Kubrick movie. It was really incredible. It was incredible.
Who is that? Who's Untie the Knots?
I think they're in Buffalo.
They must be, because they've got the 716 at the end of the whole,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
No, I've spoken to them. They're very nice people too. So San Diego. Oh, that's right. Irish Delights in San Diego. That's right. That's a long trip, but you can do it. And actually, there's no direct flight to Buffalo from LA. I think you have to stop in Detroit first, at least on Delta. And then it was funny. I didn't realize how close Detroit was to Buffalo, and I think it was about a 25-minute flight. I didn't even get a drink.
Oh,
you're up and you're down.
You're on the tarmac.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They don't even stand up. They don't even need flight attendants for that flight, just for safety, I guess.
That is a new trend. Like this, you know that you're on an hour flight, that it's going to be bumpy, so they're not getting up. Like the pilot comes on and does the whole like, we're sorry to inform you that there's risk of turbulence.
I think it was like 25 minutes actually from Detroit to Buffalo, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's less than I think the flight time is considered an hour and 5 minutes. Like, but
there's no way it is though.
You're in the air like 23 minutes.
So somebody asked if we clean the molds. I do every time.
Yeah, so we were talking about, so yeah, you polish molds
every time,
meticulously every time.
Yeah, I am, and I may not be able to do that this time because there's no alcohol. But yes, I use. They go into the dish machine. It's a hot water machine, so it has detergent in it, but it doesn't have sanitizing chemicals on the lower temperature machine. So that's where you'd have problems with the polycarbonate, is with the chemical sanitizing machines. And then we air dry them, and then we polish them with cotton pads, not cotton balls, cotton pads, and 91% isopropyl alcohol.
Okay, so hello, what's the best temperature for spraying? Spraying what?
Spraying
my
cocoa
house,
butter. Yeah, this is a question we get all the time, and I love this. I say to people, when they question me about why I temper cocoa butter, I love to answer flippantly, what is the ingredient in chocolate that you think requires tempering? Cocoa butter is the only ingredient in chocolate that requires tempering. So whether it's stripped out of the chocolate or it's within the chocolate, when you're tempering, that is what you are tempering. So if you use Magic Temper, I spray at 31 to 32 degrees. If you're just tempering the cocoa butter without the Magic Temper, spray it about 29 or 30 degrees centigrade, and you'll have good results.
Yeah, I've become a believer. Like I have an easy temper, just because Carrie is a neighbor of ours and a good friend.
Up in Canada.
Yeah, and so I use easy temper. I mean, fundamentally the machines work the same way. And yeah, I've become a believer because I don't think I never added it to my Ganache before. So I use it in Ganaches. I use it in all my cocoa butter now. We actually were using it. We did a showpiece class here, and we were working chocolate warmer out of the tempering units, and then adding the easy temper to it to get longer time on the table, so we could do curls and do bends for things.
Yeah, that is important, and I've spoken to people about that too. So just so everybody knows that there's multiple stages of cocoa butter, and beta 5 is the most stable. So these devices hold the cocoa butter, which is already tempered, in temper form essentially. So it holds it at 33.4 or 33.7 depending on how you set it. And when your Ganache and your praline is about 32 degrees centigrade, you want to add 1% to your Ganache of the total weight. So if you have 1,500 grams of Ganache, you add 15 grams of Magic Temper to it, and you blend it into it. And so I know, simple, huh? So what it does is it winds up forcing it into crystallization immediately versus doing it over a period of time, which is what we were doing in the old days, and kind of waiting for it to happen. Now we have more control over it, so we're able to close our bonbon molds more quickly, and we're able to cut our Ganaches more quickly, which extends the shelf life of them, because like any container, your bonbon is a container, okay? So if you leave a container open on the countertop, there's a chance that microbes get into it and create issues of bacteria and that sort of thing. This way, if we're able to close the bonbons or coat them, it increases their shelf life, and we have a safer product to sell and to enjoy.
Right. So how many layers of uncolored cocoa butter would you spray for serious shine and depth before spraying color in the molds? I'll tell you what, I don't do that. But if I'm really trying to bounce shine up, I will spray a combination of cocoa butter and tempered chocolate after I spray color, and then fill my molds, and you can get almost plastic look out of the chocolate. Though I don't think it looks natural, right? I mean, it looks kind of creepy.
Well, so it's two things though. You got to have a very clean, polished surface,
right?
And then you have to be tempered correctly, and then you have to release them The larger the piece, the longer a release time you want. So if you have a very large piece, something like 8 centimeters or so, go a little bit slower and longer in your release so you have less release marks. And that's really kind of the big thing on how they get so shiny is if you put chocolate on a matte surface, it'll come out matte. So if you put it on paper and it's tempered, it'll come out matte. But if you put it on plastic, it'll come out shiny. Right. And the heavier the plastic, the shinier the chocolate. So in other words, guitar versus acetate. Guitar sheet comes out shiny. Acetate 0.007 comes out even shinier. So it just depends what you're putting it on.
Cool. So somebody's asking about spray guns. I use cheap stuff.
So do I.
I use Badger 250s. Hold on. Let's see if I can grab one. I mean, I use. Yeah.
That's.
These.
Yeah. The problem with spraying anything is that you're spraying cold air through it. So you got to spray quickly. So there's cold air going through that gun, and that cocoa butter is saturated fat. So it's going to want to start setting all like the piston and that sort of thing. So you got to move quickly. So it's a 2-person job when we do it. And I use like $30 guns from a company, I believe they're called Grizzly, from somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest. And we buy multiple guns. We keep them warm. We keep them about 35 or 37 degrees centigrade. And we change them out through our spray process. So they're always flowing.
Yeah, these are sitting in a melter on my counter that's set at like 33 degrees right now. Right. And then they're inexpensive, so same with you. Like I have, 2 that always have white in them. I have a couple that have yellow, whatever colors we're going to use a lot of. So, hey, Kriss, so we said we were going to do 45 minutes. We're at 47. Yeah.
Right.
There's a couple questions here, so I don't know if you want to.
No, keep going. It's fine by me.
Yeah, I've got probably another. What am I going to do? I'm going to go home.
Well, it's a pandemic. There's no zombies. I'm playing Easter Bunny today. I'm dropping off. My neighbor across the street is getting a gift box, and then my former coworker is getting some for their kids. So we can make it a little bit normal.
Yeah, that's like we did bunnies for all of our staff today, and then
and my staff too. They're taking them to their kids or their nieces, nephews, that sort of thing. So we made them for them as well.
Okay, so there's a question about. There's a difference in tempering between different manufacturers of tempering machines. Well, that's like a whole 2-hour conversation.
The chocolate defines what it wants.
Right. So I mean, fundamentally, there are machines that are going to do batch tempering, where they temper everything at once. So like a big vat that you water jacket and you change the temperature, all that goes into temper.
Oh, right.
You warm all of it back up. There are straightforward seed machines, like a wheel machine, like the original back-on machine, right?
We call that the wheel of misfortune.
Luke's a good friend, so
he is a good friend. He's a great guy. So I won't say anything about that. But the machines you want are continuous temper.
Right, and so then there's levels of continuous tempering too, and Selmy is considered in that world of continuous automatic tempering. But those are things that I think that's a whole conversation too. So
yeah.
Hello,
Depends on
Kriss.
budget.
Yeah, definitely budget's a big deal. Hello, Kriss. Can you talk about how you making?
How you make colored cocoa butter? He sent another one. So how you make colored cocoa butter? So you buy oil soluble powder, and then you add to it, and that's your tint. So. The thing is, with many of the colors,
or you dial 716-854-6050.
That's right, and you
buy whatever color you want.
So there's 2 brands that I use, and you want to talk about that brand that you sell? It's from Ganache, California. They do our transfer sheets too, by the way.
We'll grab one.
They're very good. The gold that I'm using on one of my eggs is from there. It's amazing, and I love a couple of their green colors, and I love that copper color too. Which one is that?
That is Orange Fireball. Like,
that one I've never used before, but that Mercury Gold I love. It's incredible. The brown, the Jupiter Brown is incredible, and the Moon Rock, the silver, they are just incredible.
So when Florence Chavot was here doing a showpiece class last fall, and he was spraying like everything he puts up, he then sprays with colored cocoa butter. Right? He doesn't spray it with chocolate. He sprays it with colored cocoa butter, and he that brown color you're talking about, like he's like, this is perfect. And we used like 2 cases of it for this class. Like it was literally like, and he's like, if it wasn't nailed down, he's like, do you have any more? I'm like, chef, we're out. Like you just use like 24 bottles of it. It's everywhere. It's on the walls. It's on the pieces. it's everywhere. But so yeah, so and then obviously there's a bunch of other people in the colored cocoa butter market. You know, there's the normal cast of characters too.
And I use power flowers too. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when they see all my dots and stripes and that sort of thing, that's not a loose cocoa butter. That is colored white chocolate or colored milk chocolate with the power flowers from IBC. So when they, like, give an example, I'll spin the camera around here and you see these bunnies, they are dotted with white chocolate. So if you're trying to do this at home and you're trying to drop, or in your laboratory and you're trying to drop cocoa butter, it's not going to work. Not to that degree of control I have over that, because the viscosity is completely different. You know, so power flowers by IBC, it's an incredible tool.
Right.
One more that you have to have in your lab.
Cool. So the two inductions that we were talking about, I use Volrath just because I use Volrath. Kriss uses somebody else he'll tell you about.
Polyscience Breville control freak.
There you go. And it's the greatest thing ever.
You have that. You have a Kriss. You have your colors. What else do you need?
Oh, okay. So Kat, you remember Catherine?
Yeah, of course.
Catherine on here, like reminding people they can just email Kat Darling, cdarling@tomrick.com, and she can help with any colored cocoa butter needs you have.
Yeah, and I tell you the ones that, like I said before, that I've used with great success: Mercury Gold, Jupiter Brown, Moon Rock, which is their silver. They have a couple other green blue tints I love. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but I love those as well. So
yeah. So the colored cocoa butters you probably don't want to use in icings because the fat will.
They're solid.
You're right. They'll be solid, so it'll have a problem. So even if you melt it, then once you put it into the icing, it'll melt. You want to just start with a fat soluble color by itself without the colored cocoa butter. Hey, it's Tom Shasha.
Oh, I love Tom. Tom's from my brother from another mother. He's a great guy. Tom, for all of you people that are still with us, started his career as a graphic designer and then fell in love with food making at home and decided to make it his business. And he's a super hardworking guy. He does everything by hand, including pipe thousands of macarons at one time. And he works with his wife on this project outside Philadelphia. And he's a wonderful guy.
And apparently a web designer now too, because he totally revamped his
did.
website
Yeah.
in the last 2
one
weeks
day.
so that he could have sales for this season.
Yeah, and let me also say this too. The one thing, Tom is not doing all these online sales because his boutique had to close, like all of ours did, But even in tough times, you can still make stuff happen. And in 2008, we went through that recession. That's how we got food trucks. There was no food trucks before in all these cities.
Well, except for Philadelphia. I will take umbrage with the fact that as a Philadelphian, we were eating out of food trucks when all you guys.
Well, Californians were too, but I mean, it expanded. It went from just roach coaches to like these gourmet dining experiences. And many of those people graduated to full brick and mortar restaurants. So this is a time where in tough times, creative people like Tom, can adapt rather quickly. And instead of being, frozen in fear, he jumped at it and he went to work.
Right. So somebody else asked, it's choco butter is what we're talking
backwards.
about. Yeah. I know it's backwards, but.
So I think if you go on chocotransfer.com, that's the manufacturer, but you can buy it right through Tomrick. Tomrick Systems, tomrick.com.
Tomrick.com.
Yeah, right?
What other products do you recommend for starting a business besides Enrobe bonbons? Caramel.
Well, I mean, caramel, Patifui, stuff that's quick to make.
Gianduja.
Yep.
Sorry,
yep.
That question was probably to you, not to me, but I kind of.
Yeah, I think I think you have to have a menu made up of stuff that, like for instance, I love panning, but you couldn't pan nuts all day because nuts are expensive, and people love chocolate covered almonds and hazelnuts, but your food cost is going to be high.
Right.
And so you want to do lower cost stuff like panning cereals. You go on nuts.com and you buy bulk naked malt balls and dried cherries, and you coat those. You sell those all day, and dried raspberries and things like that, and get creative with it, dropping your food costs down. I also believe if you're going to have high food cost items, they should be low labor. So high food cost items are like buying orange peel and running it through the machine. It costs you no labor to do that, but there's a higher food cost on it. But if you're enrobing ganaches, your food cost is going to be very, very low ultimately because you're doing such a large volume with 2 swipes of a DD guitar. that you can also buy from Tom Rick as well. So that's what's really amazing about doing enrobed stuff is like, the one thing about doing colored chocolates is there's a lot more labor into getting the molds ready before you shell them. So you have to have a balance of both molded and enrobed. If you just did molded stuff, you have to consider that one bottle of colored cocoa butter is $20, but a lot of it dissipates into thin air, and you can't even really cost that at that point. So it's harder to recover that. So, but if you're doing enrobed stuff as well, you'll make much more money and then some. So you can offer both products.
I also think that there's somewhere in here that not every piece that needs to be in that box needs to be colored, right? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for doing non-colored decoration on enrobed pieces, whether that's traditional methodologies with forks or
of course
nuts and fruits. And I think what it does is it gives a really nice selection in the box, right?
We'll get on that. Okay, so this question got asked before. What size bonbon molds would you recommend? 2.6 centimeters or 3 centimeters?
I do 3 myself.
Yeah,
I think it's a good value.
Is that like 12 grams?
Yeah, it's 10 to 12. I think,
2.6 is probably...
Interestingly enough, I think Patrick Roger does 2.75. They're a little smaller.
Right.
His molded bonbons. I actually looked at that mold too. I thought that was too small. I think Americans want something a little bit bigger. And this is not too big without being obnoxious. I like what that lady does in New York City. She has the taller domes, so she can get more. I'm talking about Stick With Me sweets.
Right.
I think she can get more layers inside because she has a taller bonbon than I do. It's very difficult for me to get more than 2 flavors inside one bonbon with what I've chosen.
But I think Ramon uses like a 3 centimeter too.
He does. He uses the same one I do. Yeah.
So
9
right.
grams.
What else we got? Anything? Are we like petering out here? Like,
well, there's our friend in Kansas City.
Is he back?
Bliss. No, Bliss. No. It's Bliss from Pastry Past Midnight. Jessica.
Oh.
She's on there too.
Which means, like, what does that mean? Like, her kids are like now having to fend for themselves. Like,
No, she's
nobody's baking bread.
She homeschools them anyway, so she's used to this. This is no big deal to her. So, what kind of mask do you wear while spraying mass production of colored cocoa butter? That's a good point. 3M. What do you call them? It has the ventilators on the side. I posted millions of photos last week wearing that goddamn thing. So.
You've been wearing it to the grocery store in the last week.
No.
Like
I have not. I've been wearing this to the grocery store, but it looks extra creepy because it's splattered with colored cocoa butter. I look like a serial killer.
We used to there was a good question about guitar. That standard Deddy is
22.5. It's 5 and 7 millimeter. Yeah. There's two varieties. There's the 5 and the 7 millimeter. So the 7 millimeter is divisible by anything that divisible by 7. I'm sorry, 7.5. So you can get 15 millimeter, 22.5, 30 millimeter, or 37.5 millimeter with that base. The 5 millimeter base does 15, 20, 25, and 30. So 25 millimeter bonbon is like yay big,
right?
A little larger. I think the larger the bonbon, by the way, enrobed, the more you can do with the top. It looks more detailed. And I think the shorter frame the bonbon, the better looking the bonbon too, because cut edges don't look nearly as good as top edge, the top, because the top's always smooth. Right. But it's important to tune your guitar too, by the way. Make sure all the strings are to the right tension, or you'll be snapping them. And if they're too loose, your ganaches will be crooked on the sides, no matter what.
Right. So, all right. What else we got here?
Cat darling, and no, not N95. Respirator. Thank you. That's what they're called.
So the question was, can you save the first live video? It should be on the Tom Rick story for
an hour.
The next 24. I don't know, but also apparently our marketing team is saving it, and we'll have it posted on probably our YouTube page at some point. We'll let everybody know.
Ideal room temperature, 20 degrees centigrade is fine, I think.
I'm looking at Tom Shasha thanking us because we're such great guys.
He's got the weird. He's got the weirdest name, Shasha.
Shasha. I didn't know how to pronounce it for like the first 10 years.
I know. I still know how to spell it. So in my, it's badly misspelled on my phone, Tom. But let me tell you a great story about Tom. There's that great photo of us together in your laboratory, and I was whispering in his ear. and a lot of people always want to know what was I whispering in his ear. He was closing his first bonbon plaque with me, and he was putting a ton of pressure on it, like everybody does. And I went up to, because he's all tense because he's doing it in front of me, you know. And so I went up to Tom and I whispered in his ear. I said, "Tom, we make love to chocolate. We don't." And then he instantly relaxed, and he did a beautiful job.
Okay, now I can't put this on our YouTube channel. And like, great, thanks.
Because I said the F word? Oh, please.
Yeah, well, you were talking about smoking weed earlier, and now you're like talking.
I did not. That was a question I got. It was a legitimate question.
All right. Is there an ideal room size for the Futura X? It's about heat exchange, and I don't know what the CFMs on the Futura are. We tend to recommend that you're working in a room that's 68 to 72 Fahrenheit. My email address has come up a couple times. I think it's bdonaghy@tomric.com. I'll try to remember to get back.
Spell your name though.
Oh yeah, Donaghy. But you can also get to us from our website at tomric.com, and I'll try to get a better answer to that question because I don't know off the top of my head.
And there's Ben, by the way.
Is Ben watching too?
Tacos for Lovers down in Florida.
There's a language that I don't know what that means.
That I believe is that is Arabic, and I don't read it, but I speak Arabic, so let me say hello to him. Salam alaikum, kifa halik. There, people are always surprised that I can do that.
Let's see. Thanks from Canada. Appreciate the info and sharing. Happy Easter. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Any other random spring holidays that are up there?
Well, there's Groundhog Day. That's coming up. Well, we had that, right?
I think every day is Groundhog Day right now.
Oh, that's right. It is. That's true. That is true, too.
So let's see. Kat's like talking to Ben. Now people are having conversations with
So
each
Kat's
other.
not actually doing any work, apparently, if she's just watching this live feed.
Well,
if I
she's
were
looking
her
for-
boss.
She's looking for sales leads. right?
Oh,
So
okay.
she's
All
doing her
right.
best to,
Well,
like,
everybody message Kat Darling, okay?
Anyway, so I think nobody else seems to have any questions, and we're kind of petering out a little bit. We're now at like an hour and 10 minutes. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Kriss, this was super fun, by the way.
Oh, look, so someone, oh, see, she's in the UAE. Chocolate Parade is in the United Arab Emirates. So we actually go back and forth, and most people over there speak English anyway. So pleasure to have you on here. I know it's very late over in the UAE, or another day.
Hey, Tomric class is not canceled, but we had to reschedule. So if you couldn't make it to the due dates, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, do we do classes? We're going to do them right in Buffalo. We're going to do 2 back-to-back classes, and there may be some more room.
Yeah, we'll know in a couple. We may know in a couple weeks if there's room. If you
I can't wait. I'm highly disappointed not to be there because it is a great time. It was an amazing facility, and it's a place where you cannot fail. It's such a great setup. You have no excuse not to do a good job there. That's all there is to it.
Well, thanks.
Hey, Lonnie.
So we did answer about how do you create new ganaches. I mean, a lot of that has to do with what flavors we're thinking about, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of like finding flavors that are like in other things and moving it over to chocolate, and then trying to sort of figure out a formula that works with it, whether that's red bean paste caramel or you got to think
of the dairy is a blank canvas, and anything that you can infuse in it and then rectify back to its original number is very important. And any future courses in the UAE, I'll go anywhere if the dollar amount is right. I'll give you an example. Somebody tried to bring me over there, and the dollars just were not right, and I was going to make more for going to Denver than to get on an airplane and go all the way to the Middle East. But yeah, I would love to go to the UAE and teach in the Middle East. I have a big following over there. I love what they do, and I would love to do something in the Middle East for sure. I'm open to it.
Speaking of that, so Anil Rohira, who we talked about earlier, works with a school in Mumbai.
Yep.
And Anil invited me over to teach. Maybe we could figure out a way that you and I could do a class.
I would do that too because I have a huge following in India too. They're very passionate people. It goes to show you how strong the connection of chocolate is. It crosses cultures. Right. It's amazing. You can't always say that about deep ethnic cuisines crossing cultures, but chocolate is one of those things that speaks to everyone on this planet. That's what's amazing about it.
Right. And somebody just asked about online classes, and that is something that Mr. Harvey and I have had a conversation about, and we're trying to figure out a way to maybe do some downloadable core programs where
I need to come up with my document on my side. I've been too busy to get to it, but I'll do that.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 hours at a time, whether that be a master class on patafouille, and it'll all be with patafouille, and you can either we've talked about either you can purchase the whole set or you can purchase one, you'll get a specific code to you and you'll be able to do just your own stuff.
So Aaliyah in Mexico is saying hello, and she's coming to our class in Buffalo. She's told me that I can't die from COVID because I'm booked to go to Buffalo in August, and she's going to be there as well. So she's a great chocolatier in Mexico. So it's nice to see her on this platform here.
Cool. All right. So I got some work to do before I can go home. You probably have some work to do because it's earlier there, and you got to deliver some Easter.
I got to go deliver chocolate.
Okay, if you had to choose one dark milk chocolate, what would it be? I'm not answering that because I get along with all these guys way too well.
Oh, I can answer it.
You can answer it.
66% Carib, but I love Elanca too. So that's a tough one. Milk chocolate, I love the Javara, but the Tanariva is amazing. It's a whole different taste. And white chocolate, Opolis, but Weiss has a great white chocolate as well. Weiss, W-E-I-S-S.
You're such a Valrhona guy.
They're good to me. So.
Understood. All right, man. Hey, so peace to you.
Yes.
Stay
safe. Entire world that's still came back, and we got 68 people that came back after we dropped off. So thank you for joining us and coming back. And there's Serbia, and that's Copa Coffee is a Serbian cafe. But thank you all for joining us, and everybody stay safe in your respective homes. And that's it.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Kriss. We'll talk soon.
Be well. Take care.
Peace.
Ciao.